Hello, fellow gamers. Persepolis here, and we are one step closer to getting our hands on the full release of Diablo 4. Yes, that's right. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the early access beta is out from March 17th to the 19th. The next chance we'll get to play is during the open beta from March 24th to the 26th. And let me tell you, the betas couldn't have come at a better time with the void that I felt after the playtest for Dark and Darker was over.
That being said, let's jump right into it. I've played the beta now for enough hours to max out my character's level to 25. I've completed the main story quest, and I completed many of the side quests in random dungeons that are currently available. With that out of the way, I figured that I would create a quick video to share my first impressions of the game and whether I think it's worth the buy. Starting off with character selection, only the Rogue, Barbarian, and Sorcerer are currently available. The Druid and the Necromancer will be available to play during the next open beta. The first character I decided to try out was the Rogue. No surprise here, I've always mained rogues in MMOs like World of Warcraft and other ARPGs. Diving right into what I first liked about the game was the character customization. Now don't get me wrong, Diablo 4 does not offer the same depth of character customization as say Black Desert Online or Lost Ark for example. However, it does offer a lot more than Diablo 3. Customizations include what you would expect: facial features, skin tones, hairstyle and color, tattoos and jewelry, etc. All in all, very nice to see in Diablo. The next pleasant surprise was that the time taken to customize my character was immediately worthwhile, since the first cutscene of the story included my character in all of his glory. Having my customized character shown throughout the cutscenes helped personalize the story just a little bit more, and that was a win in my books. Now I won't go into the story in much detail to avoid spoilers. However, from what I experienced throughout the campaign so far, the story is fine and engaging enough. Lilith, the main antagonist of the story so far, seems like a compelling enough villain. After all, she is the daughter of hatred, and somehow a mother figure to those who can be corrupted around you. Like I said, the story is engaging enough, and for me personally, it's just the background to get what I'm really after in these types of games: the loot. Speaking of loot, check out this clip. I'm not sure what the chances are of coming across 3 treasure goblins in a random dungeon, but it sure was exciting at the time. That being said, I'm not sure whether to rank the loot in Diablo 4 as a pro or a con at this point. Throughout my playthrough to level 25, I came across 8 legendaries. Now keep in mind, the drop rates may increase or decrease in the actual version of the game. The legendaries seemed to range from unique modifiers that would change the way I played and what I focused my build on, to lackluster modifiers such as attack speed gain of basic skills. The modifiers on the rare and epic loot also range from just plain boring to actually making a difference in my gameplay. Now everyone has their own preferences when it comes to loot. However, I value loot that actually impacts the way I play the game, whether it changes my rotation, build, etc. All that to say, the loot isn't bad, but there is room for improvement. And who knows, the end game items may very well be a lot more exciting. Also, one quick note to those who are questioning item contribution skill ranks, like I was. I have confirmed that you can go above the max rank of an ability, which I find to be a great mechanic. When it comes to the aesthetics of the loot, I personally think the artists did a great job. Even most of the low tier items are aesthetically pleasing, which is nice to see in an industry where the best looking skins are typically locked behind microtransactions. Now don't get me wrong, I am aware of the battle pass that will be implemented in the game. However, at least the base armor skins are nice. That, along with the salvage and transmog feature, allows players to further customize their characters right from the early game. This is another win in my books. Moving on from loot, the next positive in the game are the talent trees and specializations. These systems add a bit more complexity and replayability to the gameplay. It's important to emphasize a bit, since these systems are nowhere as complex as talent trees in Path of Exile, for example. However, I do think that's fine. There is a world where ARPGs of different complexity and styles can exist in the same space for all different types of players, from the casuals to the hardcore players. The talent tree in Diablo 4 is fairly straightforward. So far, we have access to the core skills, which are basic combo and resource generating skills. Then, you have a number of class specific skills. So for the rogue, for example, we can pick from agility, subterfuge, and imbuement skills. Now I won't go into the builds in much detail in this video, however I plan on creating another video on the build that I focused on for my rogue during the early gameplay. Finally, we have access to the ultimate skills. These are your heavy hitting skills and are typically on a longer cooldown timer. For the most part, there are a good variety of impactful skills that change up the gameplay significantly. The rogue, for example, can go ranged, melee, or both. I typically end up specializing on a few skills in ARPGs, if not just one skill, in order to get the most out of those skills. In this case, I went fully ranged and focused on the rapid fire ability with poisons, which was surprisingly fun. Now Diablo has decided to make respecking more difficult than it needs to be in order to quote unquote make the decisions we make as players feel more meaningful and impactful. Maybe I'm just a casual, but I personally don't see any value in this. Just let us play the game and allow us to make changes to how our characters play, without the need to recreate the character. Now just to rapid fire a few more positives that I experienced in the game so far. The voice acting is fairly well done in my opinion. I actually found myself listening to the story and quests instead of just skipping everything, which is frankly what I typically do. The collection and challenge systems provide additional purpose and incentives to explore and complete objectives throughout the different maps. Along those lines, I found mining and herb gathering a nice touch. It reminded me of all the hours I sank into WoW for my professions. It's another excuse to get out and explore the maps. Additionally, the materials are required to upgrade weapons, armor, health potions, and even create different elixirs. One minor comment that I have is that the node should disappear off the map after it's tapped. Currently, that's not the case with the mining nodes. The faction and reputation systems incentivize completion of side quests, especially since the available side quests weren't the most engaging. On the topic of quests in general, it would have been nice if player choice was implemented in the game. A lot of the times, I didn't even get a chance to accept or decline a quest. It was just assumed that I would take on the quest. To me, this isn't engaging gameplay. Perhaps it's wishful thinking to hope for player choice in a Diablo game. However, in my opinion, it would work well within the theme of the game, given the moral dilemmas, good versus evil themes, etc. Sharing the world with other players is certainly a nice touch, especially in the towns and when attempting to kill world bosses. I found it a bit gimmicky in the general open world though, when players would just tag all the mobs and run away. In general, it is a nice feature, including the new emote system, which adds another method to interact with other players. World bosses are a great addition to the game, even though the group I was with got destroyed during an attempt on the world boss Ashava. Now to be fair, there weren't very many of us, and those that were there ranged from levels 7 to 25, so it's understandable that we weren't successful during that attempt. The number of random dungeons on a given map is also a nice addition. That said, the dungeons tend to be very repetitive with copy and pasted assets and floor tiles. Definitely some room for improvement here. Now moving on to some of the negative experiences during my time with the beta, I must first address the elephant in the room. Is Diablo 4 that much different than Diablo 3? To be honest, other than the new features and systems including the talent tree and the world bosses, my experience with Diablo 4 hasn't been significantly different than Diablo 3. The new systems are positive for sure, but I didn't experience anything that was mind-blowing during my playthrough. My experience of the beta wouldn't have been complete if I didn't experience the most difficult boss in Diablo, error code 316719. I think we all remember error 37 from Diablo 3. This error happened a few times throughout my playthrough, and every time I got kicked out of the game and put in a queue for over an hour. During one of these times, my character was seemingly deleted as well. Luckily that wasn't actually the case when I got a chance to log back on. However, you can imagine how upset I was during the hour while I was waiting in queue. That said, I've come to expect server issues during playtests, and I'm just hoping that these errors are not prevalent when the actual game is released. Some of the other issues I ran into during my playthrough are ones that I would expect during a beta, including frame rate issues. This tended to happen in towns, during cutscenes, and when first loading into a dungeon. That said, I'm sure that Blizzard will continue to optimize the game before release, right? Invisible walls were also an issue in different dungeons in some areas around towns. Again, I'm hoping that these will be addressed prior to the game's release. I'm surprised that the game doesn't include a map overlay. This is typically a feature in ARPGs. Perhaps this will be added in a later patch. Otherwise, I'm not sure why the devs would have made this design decision. Other than that, I've already mentioned the reused assets and dungeon layouts. Hopefully this isn't consistent throughout the later maps. With all that said, let's move on to my final verdict of Diablo 4. Do I think this game is worth your money and time? Well, the TLDR version of that answer is yes. However, that is based on the limited scope of the beta I had a chance to experience. My playthrough was enjoyable and immersive. The new systems aren't groundbreaking by any means. I mean, basically all of the systems are copied from other games. However, that is what Blizzard does well. The new systems do add some additional complexity to Diablo, which is nice to see. It is difficult to judge how the rest of the game will play out, especially the end game. However, what we have seen in the starting zones and with the story so far is promising at least. Whether the gameplay will be engaging at endgame, or whether Blizzard's monetization of the game, including the Battle Pass, will cause pay to win issues in the future is unknown. All I can do for now is hope for the best. Now, just a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, my bank account, without which I wouldn't have had the funds to pre-purchase this game, nor would I have had the time to play the beta and create this video. So thank you, my savings account. All joking aside, I hope you all enjoyed this video and found the content helpful and entertaining. As you can probably tell, this is the first video I've created and uploaded to YouTube. I don't have grand ambitions with this channel yet, it's just a hobby for now. It's a way that I can motivate myself to learn new skills and have a creative outlet while doing what I love, which is playing video games. I intend to upload more videos on Diablo 4 and other games in general, including Dark and Darker, as I absolutely fell in love with that game. If that sounds interesting to you, feel free to stick around. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.